Have you ever stopped to think about this? Is the language you speak just a bunch of labels you slap on things you're already thinking about? Or does it actually build the thoughts themselves? It's this huge, fascinating question about what it even means to be human. So let's just dive right in. Let's just put it out there, plain and simple. Does the fact that you speak English or Japanese or Swahili fundamentally change how you see the world? Does it actually alter your perception of colors, your experience of time, or even how you think about your own family? This whole debate really boils down to two big competing ideas. In one corner, you've got the theory that language is like a blueprint for your mind. The words and the grammar you have actually determine the concepts you can even think about. But in the other corner, there's this idea that all humans share a kind of universal thought language. Sometimes it's called mentalese, and that all our different spoken languages are really just different ways of translating those same core ideas. So let's dig into that first idea, which is this powerful and honestly kind of unsettling notion that your language is literally building your reality. This right here is the heart of the famous Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. And I want you to notice the word Whorf uses. He doesn't say we label nature, he says we dissect it. The idea is that the world just comes at us as this, kaleidoscopic flux of impressions, and our language is what hands us the knife. It forces us to carve up reality in a very specific way. The psychologist Lev Vygotsky, he took this idea even further. To him, a thought doesn't just exist in some pure pre-language form waiting to be put into words. Nope. The word itself is what brings the thought into being. It's almost like a thought is just a ghost until a word gives it a body. So think about what this means. If language really does shape thought, then becoming fluent in another language isn't just a party trick. It's one of the most profound mental shifts you can possibly have. You're not just swapping out labels, you are, in a very real sense, installing a whole new operating system in your brain. But what if all of that is completely backward? Let's flip the coin and look at the other side of the argument, which paints a totally different picture, one where thought is the boss. This brings us to this really cool concept of mental lease. Thinkers like Noam Chomsky and Steven Pinker argue that all of us are born with this built-in, pre-wired language of thought. It's abstract, it's universal for all humans, and our spoken languages, English, Mandarin, whatever, are just the output. They're just the different ways we translate this universal mental lease into actual sound. And Steven Pinker, he does not pull any punches. He flat out calls the idea that language is thought a conventional absurdity. For him, it just flies in the face of common sense. We've all had that moment where you know exactly what you want to say, but you're fumbling for the right words, right? Well, to Pinker, that feeling right there is proof that the thought exists separately from the words you use to say it. So, in this model, if you're an English speaker learning Japanese, you're not learning to think differently. You're just learning a brand new way to translate the same universal human concepts that we all get. Things like love, danger, or hunger. Okay, so we've got these two very neat opposing theories. But as we all know, reality is never that simple. And that's when a third character walks onto the stage and messes everything up: culture. The idea here is really simple. A language develops to be useful. It literally adapts to the environment, the social structures, and the values of the people who speak it. It develops the specific tools its speakers need to get by and to thrive. Let's just take time, for instance. In English, we talk about a long or a short time, right? We imagine it as a horizontal line stretching out. But in Greek or Spanish, you might talk about a big amount of time, as if it has volume. And get this, in Mandarin, time can be vertical. Up month is next month, and down month is last month. These aren't just quirky little phrases. They show totally different mental models for a concept we think of as universal. Or what about family? In English, we have this one-size-fits-all word, uncle. But in a language like Tamil, you have to be more specific. Is he your father's older brother, your periapa, or his younger brother, chitapa? These distinctions aren't just trivia. They show what information is absolutely vital in that culture's social fabric. The language itself forces you to pay attention to details that an English speaker gets to completely ignore. This stuff can even impact something as basic as math. Think about it. In English, our numbers 11 and 12 are just weird. They don't follow the pattern. But in Welsh or Japanese, the system is way more logical. The number 47 is literally said as 4, 10, 7. And some studies suggest this actually helps kids grasp the whole concept of place value much faster. So the language can be either a roadblock or a ramp for mathematical thinking. And speaking of numbers, you're gonna love this. The word zero, it didn't even appear in the English language until the year 1598. The whole Roman numeral system that was used all over Europe had no concept of zero. It really makes you wonder, right? How do you even think about a concept when you literally don't have a word for it? This effect gets even wilder. It can shape our basic sense of direction. If you ask me how to get somewhere, I'll say, take a left, then a right. It's all relative to my own body. But in some languages, you'd be told to go north or downstream. To even speak the language properly, you have to always know which way is which. And the result? Speakers from these cultures often have navigational skills that seem almost superhuman to the rest of us. Their language has directly trained a cognitive skill. Okay, so we've looked at the big debate, the clash of these massive ideas, and all this fascinating, messy evidence from different cultures. So what's the bottom line? What does this mean for you and for the language you're using right now? Well, it's not really about picking a winner. Language probably doesn't lock our thoughts in an inescapable prison, but it's clearly not just a simple, neutral label either. The reality is that these three things, language, thought, and culture, are all tangled up in this incredibly intricate dance. Your native language doesn't just give you words. It gives you a very specific toolkit for thinking, for paying attention, and for making sense of the world. And that helps explain why some parts of learning a new language are so frustratingly hard. You know, for a Russian or Japanese speaker trying to learn English, the whole battle with a versus the isn't just some tiny grammar rule. It's that English forces you to constantly classify every single thing. Is it a specific known object, the car, or just a generic one, a car? They have to build a whole new habit of thought that just doesn't exist in their own language. Which leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. Think about the unique words, the weird grammar, the turns of phrase in your own native tongue. What specific mental tools has it given you? What ideas or feelings or ways of seeing the world might be almost impossible to think without the very particular language that you speak?